All right, guys, today we worked on graphing ratios, and there's three easy steps to doing that. The first thing is we're going to create a ratio table starting with the original ratio. So that's something we already know how to do. This is actually two skills we already know how to do. It is creating a ratio table and then plotting ordered pairs. So hopefully you feel like today is super easy. So first thing, create that ratio table starting with the original ratio. Then we're going to create a list of ordered pairs. And then lastly, we're going to plot those ordered pairs on the coordinate plane. Okay, so let's take a look at example 1 over here. It says, Grandma's famous chocolate chip cookie recipe calls for 3 cups of sugar and yields 2 dozen cookies. So the first thing we're going to do is make our ratio table where we have our sugar and our dozens. And like we said, we're going to start with the original ratio. So my original ratio is 3 cups of sugar gives us 2 dozen cookies. Now, we said a couple days ago that to make a ratio table, all we have to do is multiply that original ratio to get multiple rows. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to multiply my original ratio of 3 to 2. And on first row, I'm going to multiply it by 2. So 3 times 2 gives me 6. 2 times 2 gives me 4. Then I'm going to take my original ratio, I'm going to multiply it by 3, so I get 9 and 6. Then I'm going to take my original ratio, and I'm going to multiply it by 4, and I'm going to get 12 and 8. And then I'm going to multiply my original ratio by 5 to get my fifth row down here, and I'm going to get 15 and 10. Okay, so that's something we know how to do. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take our ratio table, and we're going to create a list of ordered pairs. Now, we talked about how when we were filling in missing values in ratio tables, that the first column is your X and the second column is your Y. So this column is our X's and this column is our Y's. So our ordered pair for the first row here is going to be 3, 2 inside of a set of parentheses. Now remember from our integers and graphing unit that ordered pairs have to be inside of parentheses and with a comma between them. So our second row, the ordered pair would be 6, 4. Our next row would be 9, 6. Our next row would be 12, 8. And then our last row would be 15, 10. So now we have a set of ordered pairs, and what we're going to do is we're going to put those in the coordinate plane. So we've got our coordinate plane, but before we can do that, we're going to have to label our X and Y axis. So we know that our X values represent the sugar, so I'm going to write that. And our Y values represent the dozens. So I'm going to label that right off the bat so I know that I'm going to put my X's or my sugar down here on the X value, and I'm going to put my dozens or my Y values on that vertical axis. Okay, so then what we have to do is we're going to label each line, and I highly recommend skip counting. And if we look at our sugar column, it looks like our skip count is going to be by 3s. Okay, so my first line is a 3. Then I have 6, 9, 12, 15. Okay, then our dozens, we're going to label our y-axis, and it looks like a good skip count for our dozens would be by 2s. So I have my first line is 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Now, please notice I did not label the spaces. When we are graphing, we are labeling the lines because where the lines intersect, where the lines meet, that's where we put our point. Okay, so to graph our first ordered pair, okay, we're going to start at the origin always. We're going to go right 3 and up 2 and put a point. For our second ordered pair, we're going to start at the origin. We're going to go right 6 and up 4 and put our point. Next one, we're going to start at the origin, go right 9, up 6. Our next one, we're going to go right 12 and up 8. And then we're going to go right 15 and up 10. Okay. Now, we also talked in class today how you can check to make sure that you have graphed your ratios correctly. There are 3 things that you're looking for after you have made your graph. Okay, the first one is it a straight line? If you've got some wonky line all over your paper and it's not straight, then you need to go back and check your work because something is not right. We need to look to see, does our line go through the origin? If we drew a line connecting all of our points, would it go through the origin? Then our last one is if the table and our graph contains equivalent ratios. So if we take a look at our graph that we made, if I drew a line connecting all of my points, it would be a nice straight line, okay? If I continued that line through to the next quadrants, it would go through the origin. So we're good on that one as well. And we can tell that we have an equivalent ratio by looking at our table, okay? Does it go up equivalently? We can look and see, does our spaces look nice and equivalent? And they do, okay? So we're good to go. And you should use those checks on every ratio table that you graph.